for the AK circulation. So this is going to be presented by myself. I'm Hywel Thomas, and Sona Pakuti is going to present the second part and also the prostate cases as well. Unfortunately, John Dormer can't be with us today, so Sona is going to kindly do his cases today. So hopefully you've got the QR code, which you can then join on Slido and able to vote as well. So, first of all, only EQA members should vote. So overseas trainees members shouldn't vote. So we're going to test this out, hopefully. So if you can vote using your favorite color, hopefully this will work. Oops. There we go. So great. Shows the Slido is working. Fantastic. So circulation AK, as I said, there's a couple of things we need to discuss before we actually get into the meat of the presentation. So the first thing, and I want to spend a couple of minutes because it is very important for the future of the EQA, just to discuss what many of you already know, which is the statement from the Royal College of Pathologists through the National Quality Assurance Advisory Panel, so often referred to as NQAP, regarding their support of EQAs, not just the urology EQA, it's every EQA, the gynae, the breast, etc. Every EQA is overseen by the NQAP and the Royal College. But not only just histopathology, they get involved with the genetics, chempath, hematology, etc., and some of the laboratory-based EQAs as well. So they're extremely important. And what our involvement with NQAP lies is that they get involved when we have a participant who is persistently in or repeatedly in the lowest 2.5% score. So if that participant has hit the second action point, as we call it, we don't know who they are. We pass on a number, and the NQAP through the college then are able to contact the hospital, etc., and go from there. So either retraining, etc., or whatever happens. Now, the college sent out an email a couple of weeks ago, which is quite a surprise to us as EQA organisers, withdrawing as a temporary function anyway their support for the NQAP and the overseeing capacity. So what this means is they're withdrawing from that work involved in sorting out the poor performers. So that can come with certain challenges. It can come with legal challenges. So if the NQAP and the college are withdrawing, where would that leave the EQA organisers? And this was one of the fundamental questions at our recent EQA organisers meeting. And Paul Bartlett did a fantastic job in trying to answer as many questions, but I know there's been a second follow-up meeting this week. We haven't got an official answer yet from the college, but if their support has been withdrawn for that role, then I don't think we as EQA organisers can take on that and sorting out the second action point participants. So I know the GI EQA have already sent out an email saying that their next circulation will be an educational only one. So they're not doing an EQA for their next circulation. So we are in a bit of a tricky position. We don't know as yet what the second statement from the college is going to be. So it is possible that the next circulation will be educational only, but we haven't made a decision yet. The college mentioned 3 areas that we're concerned about: the volunteers, which currently run this scheme, the funding. But again, we will, once we know the second follow-up meeting, we will then send out an email to you all as Uropathology EQA members and go from there. But as I said, it is possible that the next EQA will be educational only, and I can hear people dancing down the corridor and popping the champagne, but it's just hopefully it'll be a temporary move to an educational only anyway. So that's just one thing. Unfortunately, I haven't got the capacity to answer questions because I know there'll be a lot of questions on, funding, etc. But I just wanted to put that out there. So get back to the current summary of the current circulation. So we had, again, a high number of participants, 479, just slightly less than last time. And again, some overseas and some trainee completed the EQA. Similar number of exemptions as before. And again, no participant exempted more than 2 case types. Just a few notes, because it is pertinent to this circulation, about the last circulation, last June, AJ. There's a couple of teething problems with that. There was a software issue with the EQA Lite software in that it allowed participants to complete the EQA without actually answering all the questions. And I think what had happened is while the EQA Lite team were just trying to incorporate the tumour percentage question in, it meant that there was some sort of coding issue and people were able to submit their answers without answering the whole thing. We've done our best to rescore that, and hopefully it was a very fair rescoring. The other thing that we wanted to address was there was 1 or 2 questions where there was a 3-way tie. It usually involved some of the less common answers. So, for example, if you remember, there's a granulosa cell tumor in one of the cases, and about 7%, that equates to about 35 people, had offered Leydig cell tumor as the answer. Now, on the Slido scoring at the time, the score was 1 was 29%, 0.5 was 27%, and 0 was 44%. At the time, because it was a new problem to us, we were just going with the highest, so this score's 0. But afterwards, when we all came together and started, okay, that's not quite as fair. And thank you to some of the people who said so on the chat as well. That was very helpful. We've come up with a system where we're being as generous as possible. So in that respect, if the commonest score less than 50% was 0, we've given 0.5 to that question. If the commonest score under 50% was 1, so for example, if 44% thought Leydig cell tumor should have scored a 1, we would give that person a 1. So, yeah. So we're trying to be as generous as possible with those 3-way splits. So let's get into the meat of the thing. So we're going to try and finish by 4. So the first one, AK1, was a right renal mass. It was described as a solid cream tumor, 7 millimeters. That was crucially mentioned in the clinical history in maximum dimension. And as I can see on low power, we can see some kidney with quite a well-defined but unencapsulated mass. As we zoom in on medium power and high power, we can start to see some tubular structures and some small little papillary structures. There are foamy macrophages, histiocytes in the actual cores. So again, very high power, we're not seeing much in the way of atypia. Mitoses are not visible. So it looks like, based on the size, like a papillary adenoma, doesn't it? So immunohistochemistry was thought to be important by 10 people. And again, a couple of comments. I've selected some random ones, 34 in total. So 34 out of 479 isn't a huge amount of comments. So yes, I agree. It's really weird that an nephrectomy performed for 7 milliliter nodule. It's very likely that this was an incidental finding. So again, we've got some immunohistochemistry and some people commenting on other types of IHC. So by far and away, the commonest was papillary adenoma. Obviously, this is a 7mm tumour. It's much less than the 15mm tumour. Again, a decent number, about 37, 38 people thought that this was a papillary RCC, but again, it's not encapsulated, doesn't have any well, it said clearly in the clinical history was 7mm, and then metanephric adenoma is not quite right for a metanephric adenoma. So fairly good concordance that for papillary adenoma. So if I'm going to open we've taken away some of the, is it scoreable or not? We've taken away some of those slides because this clearly is over 70% and should score. So I'll just wait for a decent number to respond. Anybody mentioning anything in the chat? Elopa, no issues on?
No issues.
No, great. Okay, so we've got 90 people, 91, so that's not too bad. So I'm going to stop it there. So papillary adenoma scores 1. Papillary RCC, yeah, scores 0. And then metanephric adenoma should score 0. So that's a fairly simple one to start with. Okay, let's crack on. So again, we're told quite crucial bits of history here. So we've got a male 82 previous history of amyloidosis query recurrence. And this is a TURBT weighing 5 grams. Again, we're given some immuno, so serum amyloid A, transthyretin, kappa lambda are all negative. The Congo red was positive with apple green birefringence and polarized light. So pretty good clues there. So again, we've got multiple fragments of tissue. I'll take some of the comments as well because it is a rather pale slide. I've got to say that. So when we zoom in on medium and high power, we can see a rather amorphous mass surrounding some structures, some blood vessels, but it is a fairly solid, rather pink amorphous mass. So I haven't taken many pictures. It's a pretty straightforward case, this one. So, whoops. So again, we've got somebody had seen some urothelial atypia in keeping with CIS. I have to be honest, I went back, I couldn't see that. So, but did see the amyloid and the amyloidosis, sorry. And then a few people had also mentioned to exclude plasma cell dyscrasia as well. But the majority, I mean, 50 people did comment, but again, they were commenting on whether they would do any further amyloid markers. So, and again, there was a fair number of comments. I'm very sorry about the slide was quite faded. So by far and away, I know it's an uncommon case, but 99% of people had it. So this should be fairly straightforward to score. So again, I'll try and get to a decent number of participants. I think we had about 120 when I started, I believe. But more I know will have joined by then. So, okay, we're in the roughly not too far off 100 here. So, okay, so let's comment amyloidosis. So this scores 1. Plasmacytoma scores 0. And TCC, plasmacytoid scores 0. Okay. I think I've excluded the other categories because it was just a duplication of amyloid. So, okay. Right. Hopefully this will be an interesting one, but let's see where we go from then. Hopefully it'll be a fairly straightforward one. So we've got a male, 39-year-old, and with a mass in the testicle found on ultrasound. Tumour markers were said to be normal, and there was a left inguinal orchidectomy performed. So what do we have? We've got a somatic core testis weighing 29 grams, and it was thought on slicing that it was a 12mm tumour, or 12mm mass, I should say. The rest of the testis was normal. So some immunohistochemistry has been performed, as shown here. So I know some of the comments that have been made relate to the immuno as well, and what type of immuno was performed. So, okay. So we've got, what do we have here? So we've got epididymis surrounding the testis, and I see a rather reasonably defined mass. And as you come up again, there's a difference in the staining pattern. Some people had mentioned in the comments, difference between the leads staining, quite pale, and then the path portal, slightly darker, perhaps easier in cases such as this, where the leads slides were rather pale. So what we're seeing are ill-defined nodules with central necrosis. Even on low power, there looks to be a cellular proliferation within these areas. And I've just zoomed up onto a high power, so on these cellular areas, again, trying to choose the ones that were better preserved. There was a few areas that weren't as preserved as these. So there is quite marked pleomorphism, very large atypical nuclei, prominent nucleolus, not much in the way of a lymphoplasmacytic infiltrate in the septi, for example. Again, quite marked pleomorphism, mitotic figures, etc. And background of GCNIS as well, quite clearly seen there. So we weren't given any immunohistochemical slides. We were just described that it was CD30 positive. So further blocks, clearly, that's what we do in real life. And again, some people had commented on the panel that was used, or the panel that was given to us, I should say. So many would like to see more sections, naturally. And again, many people commented on the poor quality. We had several types of these cases, and this was one of the better ones, I should say. So again, commenting on the D220, it's not routinely used. I do find it useful sometimes, I have to say. But there can be some crossover with embryonal carcinomas because it's mainly a seminoma stain. So again, yes, I entirely take your point. I do look at both platforms, I have to say, mainly because obviously we're the organizer, we want to check the quality, but there is a difference, and Path Portal I do find slightly darker and easier to look at. Okay, so again, we've got comments on the terrible staining, and I'm sure they did do OC34. I can't be certain, but we were only given a certain number of clues in the clinical history. So again, fairly straightforward concordance for a pure embryonal carcinoma. Some people thought there was another element. They didn't specify what, but about 10 or 12 people thought there was something else. And again, a very small number, about 3 or 4, thought it was predominantly seminoma, but I didn't think that was the case. So again, we've taken out the, is it scoreable? Yes or no, because it is pretty obviously scoreable. So let's see what people, again, I'll give plenty of time for people to make up their mind about this one. Again, what I would say is, if we can be as generous as possible, there have been some instances in the past of tactical type scoring, but we're trying our best to be as generous as possible. Okay, we're over 90, I think. Yeah, 95, so that should be okay now. So pure embryonal carcinoma, of course, scores 1. Mixed germ cell tumors over 50%, so that gets 0.5. That is fair enough. And mixed germ cell, predominantly seminoma, scores a 0. Choriocarcinoma, yeah, that's a 0. I couldn't find any evidence of any choriocarcinoma elements. and then a seminoma, pure seminoma, I should say, scores 0. Okay, good stuff. I think we're doing okay at the moment. So next one's an interesting case. This is a great EQA case, I think. So because it's an educational and an EQA component as well. So what we have. So we've got a TURP specimen, 74-year-old male, enlarged prostate history of retention of urine, and then multiple chips, but we are provided with a panel of markers. And that panel, you probably have seen plenty of TURP chippings in your time. So it's a slightly, it's a wide panel that we may or may not do all the time in TURP specimens. So we've got a CK7, we've got an NKX 3.1, got an S100, may raise alarm bells, GATA3, and then a PIN cocktail, which is usually obviously high molecular weight cytokeratin, P63, and racemase as well. So now then, multiple chippings on low power, plenty of tissue to look at. Can be quite challenging when you're looking at this digitally, having to scan the whole thing, but there were certain chippings that obviously had the lesion in them, and the rest were just background noise, really. So some of the chippings had a very stromal predominant proliferation. You might see in the stromal BPH, for example. No glands within this little chipping. Then other chippings were predominantly glandular, so quite dilated prostatic glands, some basal cell hyperplasia in some of those areas. Now then, so this is the lesion, and is present in a couple of chippings. So it's quite well defined. It does seem to be a demarcation between the start of the lesion and background prostate tissue. It looks as if it's unencapsulated. And even on low power, there's a suggestion of sort of luminal spaces mixed with some sort of other stromal proliferation. So it's a mixed appearance. Medium power, you're starting to see various types of sort of prostatic acina structures here. So we can see some reasonably formed acini, and then they start to sort of migrate. Yes, there might be an element of diathermy effect in this specimen. They might not be as well preserved as some, but you know, this is part of the lesion, the way these glands start to become more poorly formed. But there does seem to be some sort of cellular proliferation within the stroma as well. So there's sort of two components to this. Again, high power of the same lesion. Same thing again, we're starting to see a well-formed acini mixed with poorly formed acini almost. You could think, oh, is that a signet ring cell perhaps? But again, it's looks as if it's a type of sclerosing type lesion where we've got a spindle cell proliferation mixed with the acina component. Again, high power, I can't see any evidence of when I say atypical, I can't see any evidence of mitotic figures. There's no prominent nucleoli, no necrosis. So again, we're going through the immunohistochemistry. GATA3. So there's some weak positivity in this. It was mainly, I thought, in the basal cells, not in the luminal cells, and it's rather weak, really, compared to the background positivity in the basal cells. But I thought, on balance, it was just weakly positive. But again, not the best one. Again, diathermy possibly could have affected it. CK7 is very strong. Again, looks as if it's a basal cell issue. NKX 3.1, again, that's the low power. This is the higher power of the NKX 3.1. Again, quite reasonably good staining, so nuclear staining, obviously. So that's positive. So we're into a prostatic type. So the acina is certainly a prostatic type in origin. And then the PIN4 cocktail. Well, I think in this lesion, racemase is thought to be positive in about 60% of cases. So yeah, so it's a reasonably good marker. S100, again, I think I've got a higher power. I thought it was positive, just in the cells, in the acini basal cells, and in the actual stromal cells as well, which could be my epithelial differentiation. So I think there is S100 positivity, and it varies in intensity. Some S100 quite strong, some a bit wishy-washy. So again, people found this quite a tricky case. So a lot of comments, and some of which very long. So of the comments, I've just taken a snapshot. So some people didn't know what he was. Some people would obviously show it, sending for a second opinion. And this is quite an interesting comment. AI was no use in this one. And this, whoever's put that in, has put that in the comments several times. So I'm not sure if they, what software they're using, but we don't use AI on, well, we don't use IBEX on chippings anyway. So not sure. Poor morphology, preservation on H&E, again, diathermy could be an issue here, but I think it was a recognizable lesion. I thought it was certainly an adequate case for the EQA. Again, some people mentioning PAX8 to differentiate between other differential nephrogenic adenoma. Obviously, nephrogenic adenoma should be obviously positive for PAX8, and this lesion should be negative. So again, pin 4 cocktail or pin cocktail maybe have caught some people out not used to seeing it. And again, varying different types of differentials. I can show you the list now as we go through. And some people thought it was challenging. Some people thought it was a great example. One person has written a very long essay and probably says it's not a great case for EQA. But anyway, this is the Y differential, and it actually carries on to the second screen. So there are 21 differentials or 21 possible answers in this case. And don't worry, I'm not going to get you to score each one of them. So if you can go through the main ones, I thought it looked like a sclerosing adenosis case, and that certainly is the commonest one. But I think we have to be generous to some of the other examples as well. Yes, adenosis, tends to be a glandular predominant lesion, but nephrogenic adenoma, again, the immuno wasn't quite right, but I can see why people have called that. But we've had several malignant answers, which occupy obviously a small number, but when you add them together, they're quite numerous. So we've got different types of cancer diagnosis. We've got prostate adenocarcinoma, varying subtypes, but we've also got non-prostatic cancer answers as well. TCC, we've got adenosquamous. I think we had an adenoid cystic basal cell carcinoma. What I've done in this case is I've lumped the prostate cancer plus subtypes all together as one, and I've lumped the non-prostate cancer diagnosis together as one. So that cuts that list down to about 11. So I am making people vote on each individual benign case simply because we couldn't find a way of sort of lumping all those together. So, when you look at adenosis and nephrogenic adenoma, it comes to about 8% of people thought it was something other than sclerosing adenosis. So I hope you don't mind answering quite a few, and we'll have about 11, I think, Slido answers to vote on. So let's crack on. Okay, so again, if you can be as generous as possible, that would be a big help. So a lot of these are benign. Well, they're all benign ones, apart from the prostate and non-prostate cancer. So, yeah, let's crack on. I've included. We'll put this in the in the form after the after this meeting. Just a couple of interesting papers as well. They're going back a fair number of years, but just to differentiate sclerosing adenosis versus cancer, it is a catch. And you are allowed some degree of atypia in some of these lesions as a rare mimic as well. So again, this is from the last circulation. I should have mentioned this was a nephrogenic adenoma, just to just to highlight some and some of the markers that we can use. So let's crack on. First of all, is it scoreable? I think it is, because it has reached the, well, it's over 70%.
In the question and answer session said this should not be scored.
The trouble is, though, 80% have said it's sclerosing adenosis. So technically,
yeah, I mean, you still have the option. I mean, people
yeah,
can still say we don't have to score it. Use your voting options.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see where we are anyway. So again, we try to be as generous as possible. I want to give as many people as we can the option just to score this one. Okay, so I think we're getting up to 120. So let's leave it. I think so is it scoreable? Yes. So okay, scoreable, and then let's give as much time for people to start score. There is a lot of differentials here to score, unfortunately. One person did it extremely quickly, so we'll try and get over 100 at least for this one. There you go, 96. Okay, so I know, yeah, it's taken quite a long time for all those differentials to be scored. So let's just finish it off there then, I think. Okay, so sclerosing adenosis scores 1. Adenosis, scores 1 as well, to be as generous as possible. Nephrogenic adenoma just reaches 50%. I'll go on there just in case we go over less than 50%. So that was 0.5 for nephrogenic adenoma. Prostatic adenocarcinoma, any type. So we've lumped all the prostate cancers together. That's what that means. So that's a 0. And again, we've lumped all the other non-prostatic cancers together and give them as a 0. Adenomatoid tumor is a 0. And atrophy, again, so we're under the 50%. And before we sort of mess this up again, so we're going to be as generous as possible there. So that would be scored as 0.5 for atrophy. Is that okay, Sona?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Basal cell hyperplasia, so that's over 50%, so that scores 0. Stump, right, I kept that separate, obviously, from the other tumours. That scores a 0. And granulomatous prostatitis is a 0. Perimetallic mucosal gland hyperplasia is a 0. So many. That goes on to the next page. And Cowper's glands is a 0. Then we might have a few other ones. Worrying growth, where no real diagnosis was offered, but I kept that separate. Other benign. So 0.5. That's fair enough. That's fair enough, because if you haven't seen the case before and you wanted to show it, people are being generous there. Other benign, 0.5. Okay, so interesting case. That one, so wide variety of opinions. So again, if we haven't seen it before, it's a great EQA and educational case. So next one, hopefully this will be reasonably straightforward. So robotic assisted laparoscopic nephrectomy for a ureteric, what was called TCC, urothelial carcinoma, and there's a supplementary staging question in this one as well. So So we're told we've got a kidney and a dilated, distended ureter over about 5 centimeters, so dilated renal pelvis. So we've got 2 circumferential parts of the ureter and then a rather disrupted part. So we've got part of that wall of the ureter missing. So again, we can see it's been filled up with what looks like urothelial carcinoma. Classical morphology on the sort of medium to high power. I thought it looked fairly low grade, to be honest. Sort of small number of mitoses, not much in the way of atypia. And then the question was then about, certainly in the supplementary part, did this look invasive or not? I've tried my best to go around and take pictures, and these were the most suspicious, if you like. It still has a rounded area. Yes, we can see the muscle part, so it often, when the tumour fills the ureter, tends to have a pushing front to it. But I couldn't find any evidence of any desmoplasia. But it can be very difficult. So I thought all in all, it had quite a rounded edge to it. These were some of the, again, perhaps less well-formed epithelial stromal interface, but again, I thought it had a reasonable edge to it with no sort of reaction to it. But again, quite a tricky one. More levels, absolutely. That's what we're doing in real life, and more blocks, obviously. I'm not sure immunohistochemistry would help in this case, but many said the same thing. It's quite tricky to stage something on one slide, but that's what we're asking just as a snapshot. We're just asking you to diagnose it and stage it on the basis of the images. Some people, there's a split between TA and T1 with the pushing margins, and also some people thought they'd seen CIS. I thought it was fairly low grade lesion with some focal lamina propria. So difficult case to review digitally. Yes, I agree with that. There's quite a bit of tissue to view, and going around the margin can be tricky one to stage. Somebody clearly not happy with us. So I'm not sure if they're having a go at me here or what, or just generally having a go at EQAs, but we try to be as generous as possible and as fair as possible, I've got to say. There is vascular invasion. I had a good look. I couldn't see it, to be fair. So this is quite a split now. Now, if you look at the top there, the diagnosis, grade 2 low grade. So the submitting pathologist had called it T1. I can show you the staging results in a second, but we didn't ask, the question wasn't asked, what sort of grade this is. So as it stands at the moment, so 1 is the commonest, but it wouldn't score on its own, and 2, again, on its own wouldn't score. If we combine 1 and 2, I think that's extremely fair. So non-invasive, papillary low grade, no special type. There's an argument to be made about combining 3 as well into 1, 2, and 3. Now, the reason, well, what I have done in the scoring, I have combined 1 and 2 together. It looks low grade, I thought. But if somebody wants to send in sort of areas they thought were high grade, I'm more than happy to have a look. We want to be as generous as possible. We haven't asked people to grade this, so just calling it urothelial carcinoma, I think, is fair enough. And if people want to be as generous as possible with 3, that's certainly fine. The other ones, pun lump, it probably is more than pun lump, I've got to say, in the ureter. So the other ones are, we've left them up to yourselves to mark. One person thought it was a micropapillary. I have to say, I didn't think it had that micropapillary architecture. And a small number have said it's squamous differentiation. Again, I don't think it's going to make any difference to the diagnosis. So I hopefully would ask you to be as generous as possible with that one. And similarly with number 8 as well. So is it scoreable? It probably is if we can combine a few of these together. So 86, I think that's fair enough. So hopefully it is scoreable. Yes. Now then, let's crack on. So and what you can see is I combined 1 and 2 together. So it's the low-grade non-invasive mixed with urothelial carcinoma NOS, but hopefully you can be as generous as possible to the high-grade non-invasive. Okay, so once it hits 100, I think we can move on, I think. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So 95% are happy. Well, it scores 0.5, I should say. There's 2 parts to this question. 0.5. 0.5, so it's not over 50%, but because it's the commonest one, which is under 50%, we're going to give it the highest mark and be as generous as possible. So that will get 0.5. You happy with that, Sona? That's our new way of doing it, this three-way tie. Yeah. TC with squamous differentiation. So again, these are all below 50%. So we're going to be as 0.25. Yeah, yeah, 0.25 for that. And again, pen lump is a 0. It's fair enough. Micropapillary TCC, that does have a characteristic appearance, the micropapillary, doesn't it? So didn't look like that. And then the glycogen rich, the clear cell TC didn't really look like that. So great. So let's move on to the staging. So it was submitted by the original pathologist as a T1. And as you can see, there's quite good correlation between TA, but 55 people thought it was a T1 as well. So what I don't want to do is if the TA people to mark down the T1, yes, the majority thought it was non-invasive, but it was submitted as a T1, and you can imagine how many emails we're going to get. So we took we took a decision about merging TA and T1 together. It's probably not going to make any. It's not going to make any clinical difference. I know we don't use that usually in the EQA, but it's a way to be, again, as generous as possible. So is it scoreable? I think it certainly is, if we can join marks together. Yep. So, and then if you can grade this, there'll certainly be some staging which are incorrect. So we have asked you to stage it. So people who've said not applicable would be wrong. And then some people have thought it was T2 as well, which is didn't think it was muscle invasive. So let's get to the roughly around the 100. Okay, almost there. Yeah, not applicable. I think it has to be 0 because we did ask for staging. T80, so that scores 0.5. Yeah. And T2 or muscle invasive scores a 0. Good. And then the last one I've got before Sona takes over. So I've got a cystic problem in the kidney. So 46-year-old male, we're given a Bosniak category cyst in the left kidney from the radiologists. And it was a 60 millimeter maximum diameter multicystic encapsulated left kidney tumor. No solid areas identified macroscopically, but we can discuss that in a second. So again, this did show quite a bit of comments, and some people weren't happy with the case. Some people thought it was a good example. So again, mixed bag. So again, low power shot. We've got a sort of fibrous wall with the edge of the background kidney. And we have varying degrees of things to look at. So we've got a thin edge, and then a sort of rather dilated area. And perhaps this area has caused the most amount of debate with the participants. We've got sort of a slightly widened septa there. It changes the overall appearance, but that is debatable. Again, when you look at the edge of this cystic mass, it does have quite obviously clear cells, and they are low grade in nature, so almost like a lymphocyte-like size. But as you move further down the septa, you can start to see clear cells within the septa, quite obviously within the septa. But in this area, it's not distorting the shape or the outline of the septa, so that's fair enough, again, when we come to the comments. And again, other parts of this lesion, we've got quite clearly septa containing multiple runs of these clear cells. Okay, so everything's okay so far. But then as we get to this area, we can you can imagine these small septa having little groups of clear cells. That's fair enough. We see a dilated, so expanded area here. And again, it's got a mixture of inflammatory cells, but also clearly there are sort of scattered clear cells within this area, quite a edematous area as well. So this area has caused a lot of the comments in this question. And right up at the top of the lesion, again, we've got quite a widened area. So again, a lot of people have felt that the two differentials that they've talked about, these two areas, this and the last slide, have been quite important. So again, further blocks, absolutely. And whether immunohistochemistry is needed on this particular type of case, it's probably the number of blocks that are taken that's going to help us in this one. Further opinion, absolutely. This is a tricky case. Some people didn't think it was suitable for EQA, but it is nevertheless. It's created a lot of debate, I have to say. One of the most commented about cases, this one. So the two main differentials, as you can imagine, was a multilocular cystic neoplasm with low malignant potential. It's got a snazzy name to it, I love it. And a low-grade clear cell renal cell carcinoma with obviously cystic changes. And a lot of people had done reading, had obviously gone to the WHO book and had quoted what you needed to sort of knock out, if you like, the diagnosis of multiloculated cystic neoplasm of low malignant potential. So unfortunately, we're unable to measure the septa on the in the EQA, but it shouldn't obviously alter the contours of the septa or be greater than a millimeter microscopic, but that's quite tricky in this EQA. So I can see both sides of this argument. Interestingly, most of the comments, I thought, were about why it wasn't a multiloculated cystic neoplasm of low malignant potential. So most people who had actually, the 90 people had thought, right, this isn't that because of these questions. So whether the people who thought it was a multiloculated cystic neoplasm were so confident they didn't want to comment, I'm not sure. But anyway, some people still using Furman grading. Again, I'm not sure if it's the same person, not happy again with us. Too many borderline contentious cases. So as you can see, if we just took it at face value, it wouldn't score at the moment because 1 and 2 don't cross the sort of magic line of 70%. But I think it's fair enough in certainly one case like this where you're just given one image that it's more than fair to join the 1 and 2 together. To make an accurate diagnosis on just one image, very tricky in this rather borderline case. It was submitted as multiloculated cystic neoplasm low malignant potential. But I think it's fair enough when we took the decision as the organisers, well, if we merge 1 and 2, that's more common sense. if we think about 3 to 8, there are a few things in here that we can certainly say clear cell papillary renal cell tumor. It doesn't look like that, does it? It hasn't got the right feature, right cellular features for that. RCC with fibromyotoma stroma, we're not seeing that much stroma, to be fair. And RCC NOS, that was part of the differential. Somebody put it in as a second diagnosis. So, and it doesn't quite look like those sort of acquired cystic disease associated RCC didn't think. So I think hopefully be happy if we merge 1 and 2 together and we achieve sort of 98% concordance then. So hopefully, I think it is scoreable if we join 1 and 2. If you don't think it's scoreable, then we can throw it out.
There is a lot of comments which say that this should not be scored. Again,
True,
not happy with this. So if people use their voting rights to.
Yeah, if people want to vote and say it's not scoreable, we can certainly throw it out. But I think if we score it based on the fact that it's those two, you know, making this diagnosis alone when you've got a tray full of slides can be quite tricky. So let's see what people have said. I think it's probably not quite as unanimous as some of the other ones. So 81% think it's scoreable. I think based on the fact that we can merge. Okay, that's fair enough. So I'm just going to give people, I think if we do it that way, 98% have seen the problem, really. The problem is the differential between the SNAS-in A multilocular cystic neoplasm low malignant potential or a very low grade clear cell RCC, both of which would have excellent prognoses. So and who knows, Sona, if we go educational next time, we're forced to go educational, this won't make any difference.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's finish it around 100 there. Yeah, okay, that should do it. So I've joined the two together. Most people are quite happy with both the diagnosis. So acquired cystic disease associated RCC doesn't have that morphology, I've got to say. So that's a 0. It's over 50%. 2+ cystic, yeah, it's a more low grade. 0. Clear cell papillary again. 0 and 95%. Yeah, that's a 0. And NOS, okay, yeah. I can see why people went for 0.5 there, but we've got to go with the voting majority. Okay, so I think that's me finished for now. If I stop sharing, if that's okay, Lopa, I'll stop sharing my bit. See if you're able to share your bit now.
Can you see?
Yeah, I can see it.
Great. All right, so we are starting with this is Havel's picture with a very cute pet, very interested in pathology microscope. Just to cheer everyone up. So first case of my lot is AK7, male 52, hematuria, 2 centimeter polyp in the bladder neck. It said there was some papillary structure seen. They were unable to resect because of a small scope. Biopsies were taken and ablation was done to the base. We received 3 fragments and there were no immunohistochemistry done. So as said, there were 3 fragments and they look very low and full of cells, which had an inverted growth pattern growing into the lamina propria with complex trabeculae and anastomosing sheets of urothelial cells. They appear to have 5 to 10 cell thickness. The periphery appears to have some palisading and there was some central streaming. The surface urothelium where present appeared non-dysplastic. And as we go through various areas, we didn't notice any mitotic activity, no necrosis, or no features of high-grade malignancy in this. As far as the comments were concerned, not much. I mean, we had 471 participants, so this is very minimal. And the written comments, we got 21 written comments. So among them, we'll just pay attention to what they have said, is because they've noticed that it was not resected completely because of a small scope. So people were like, they think it's an inverted papilloma, but in view of incomplete excision, they had favored low-grade urothelial carcinoma with inverted pattern, and some went for inverted pendulum just because clinically they thought this was more safe way to go. So just to warn you all, hopefully you're hearing me, that these people have given an explanation why they went for this option. And distinction between inverted papilloma and this inverted growth pattern, low grade lesions are very challenging. And most of us show these to each other. I mean, I'm guilty of showing it to my colleague. I mean, I share an office with uropathologists, so we share most of our benign lesions, but malignant, we are more happy to sign out. And some said they do CK20 and Ki67. Again, we do repeatedly these immunos, but hardly help. And again, another contentious case. So in spite of that, we had very high agreement. Around 94% thought it was inverted urothelial papilloma. There was a small section which thought it was papilloma, though it was an exophytic lesion. Clinically, it should not have much management implications. And then the other options were what we discussed already, low grade, non-invasive, and pendulum. So I think it's very much scoreable. And should we start that scoring? So yeah, I have my Slido here. So I'm just going, sometimes if I look there, I'm scoring on Slido myself. Okay, so let's switch 100. Oh, yes, there. Inverted papilloma 1, urothelial papilloma 0.5. Okay, low grade 0, pendulum 0, and then no special type 0. All right, just to jog our memory on what were the previous scores. We had inverted urothelial papilloma happens very frequently in EQA. So in AJ3, these were the options. We have better score this time, and pendulum was given a 0.5, and the rest were all zeros. Similar to this time, AA7 had 0.5 for papilloma, and the rest were zeros. Okay, moving on. AK8. So this one we are told it's a 37-year-old male, known seminoma. At that time, we had this question, known seminoma where? Was it in the other testis? Was it metastatic? And we did contact the submitting pathologist. Unfortunately, we never got a reply back. So I can't answer where this known seminoma was even today. So when you're submitting cases, try to give more history so that it will not evoke a lot of emotions among the participants. So macroscopically, they saw an 8 mm lesion. So this was the slide. And all of the test is fitted into one slide, so maybe it's atrophic. There is a bit of pinkish area here. That's probably the one which we are the lesion macroscopically identified. And then the remaining majority of the slide comprised of the background tissue. So testis with, empty lumens and a lot of pink cells in the intervening area. So when we go to the scar area, it looks unremarkable type of scar, no necrosis, no calcification. There was some entrapped tubule, some Leydig cells. Again, a bit more higher power view. just a scar tissue there. The background, which was predominant, we had a lot of tubules which only had Sertoli cell. There was no spermatogenesis anywhere. And there were Leydig cell, but it was just relative hypoplastic changes rather than a true hypoplastic changes because of all the atrophy which was happening. And going around, didn't find any germ cell neoplasia in situ. So there were a lot of comments. A lot of people wanted immunohistochemistry. A lot of people wanted further blocks. 17 of us thought this was not suitable for EQA and levels and seek opinion. And yes, there was a lot of written comments, 155 in total. Most of them centered on known seminoma. Where was it? Was it in the other testis? Was it in the lymph node? And whether there was any chemotherapy given? What was the serum markers? What is OC34? You need to put more specimen in. So, and then there was a lot of comment that this is not suitable for EQA. There is not enough information to give an answer. Then there were people who went around the background testis and thought it was a cryptorchid testis. And there were infarcts, which people were thinking that scar was probably secondary to an infarct. So these were all the various comments, and a lot of people didn't want it in the EQA and want to take this out also. And general pathologists will send it to a specialist center. So with all these comments, these were what our submitted answers were. Again, we're reaching 80% if we think that regress germ cell tumor and the other was scar versus regress germ cell tumor. So around 80%. Then there were a few which were cryptorchidism. Okay, they didn't probably read the history. You have certainly only tubules and atrophic testis. Maybe we can be a bit generous there. Testicular infarction. I mean, if it was an acute infarct, it would be painful and you'll have hemorrhagic. It doesn't fit, but maybe they were thinking of the scar secondary to a small ischemic infarct rather than a real testicular infarct, trying to justify. Leydig cell hyperplasia, again, it's probably that relative rather than a true Leydig cell hyperplasia, Ben. But then again, I mean, people who consider the background might have used this option. Germ cell aplasia is another word for Sertoli cell only tubule. So let's see if you want to be generous with the background. Didn't look like Sertoli cell tumor or Sertoli cell nodule. Maturation arrest and hypospermatogenesis are, I mean, there is no spermatogenesis at all. So maturation arrest is that probably it's arrested at particular stage, like primary spermatocyte stage. Hypospermatogenesis also means that they have varying degrees of spermatogenesis, but here there was no spermatogenesis. Only Sertoli cells were seen on the seminiferous tubule. So it doesn't really fit, but it's not clinically damaging probably. Gonadal dysgenesis, streak gonad, amyloidosis, it looked pink, but everything pink is not amyloidosis. Leydig cell tumor, there was no such nodule there. So, and these two, germ cell neoplasia in situ and intratubular seminoma, is probably an overcall. But yeah, now, so let's see whether you want to score this or not. And if not, we can take it out. So use your voting rights. All those people who were saying you should not score it. But the problem is that when you get 80% people get the answer right, those 80% will want to score the case. So I think most of the time, if it's over 80%, even if 20% people say, it's always, I mean, see, I'm like 80% will always overrun the 20%. All right, let's go for it. But yeah, try to be a bit generous. You're not looking for a perfect right answer. You're looking for a safe answer with the limited information provided. And it's very easy to mark a 0. If you read, it takes more time to read the option. So just be more generous to our colleagues. So we'll wait for about 100. Yeah, and remember, FRC path exams also, even if you get benign malignant errors, you don't get a 0. Okay, so then okay, let's see what the verdict is. Pray, germ cell tumor 1, of course, 80% of us thought. Okay, so what do we say? Let's go for 0.5, just because we have more 1 there. Again, here, let's go for 0.5 because we combine 0.5 and 1. Maturation arrest of 0. Leydig cell hyperplasia 0. Hypospermatogenesis 0. Germ cell neoplasia in situ 0. Intratubular seminoma 0. Gonadal dysgenesis 0. Myeloidosis 0. Leydig cell tumor 0. Sertoli cell tumor 0. Sertoli cell nodule 0. Germ cell aphasia 0. All right, fine. So moving on, AK9. 38 female, 5.5 centimeter right renal upper pole tumor. We had a nephrectomy specimen. And what we are told is there was a well-defined tumor with cystic multiloculated areas and some soft, scanty solid areas. We were given some immunohistochemistry that the stromal component were positive for SMA, Desmin, ER, PR, CD10, and epithelial component was positive for MAXID. So actually at this stage, people know what we have been dealing with. This is also quite a frequent EQA case. And the section, we had some normal kidney, and then we have the lesion with multiple cysts, some complex glands, even some phylloides type growth pattern. Unremarkable epithelial lining, some spindled cells, looks like an ovarian stroma. Again, more of similar areas, a higher power view of benign looking columnar epithelium. No mitosis, no necrosis. I mean, no features to suggest any high grade change. Again, not much comments because people were happy. I mean, I really like them when they're happy. Even the written comments, there were 20 in total. So most of them centered about why they choose particular option. Like if you choose MEST, they were saying that they saw the slide and the slide were more solid. So that's why they preferred MEST. Some people said they preferred cystic nephroma because the macro said it was cystic and only scant solid areas. The other said it's in a spectrum, and adult cystic nephroma is more cystic. So it's just a, and then the immunos was the other comment. And if, I mean, we should just combine 1 and 2 because they are part of the spectrum. So we will reach well into the 90s. The other diagnosis, which we had, metanephric adenofibroma. You'll have metanephric adenoma-like areas and then fibrous areas. It didn't have that blue areas. Renal dysplasia, it's mostly found in duplex ureters with dysplastic tubules, and you might have cartilage around it. Metanephric stromal tumor, it's a stromal tumor and with some entrapped tubules. Mucinous tubular and spindle cell carcinoma. I mean, that's again an EQA favorite. I always find this as an option in one of the drop down. It doesn't look like that. Renomedullary interstitial tumor. Again, we had this in the previous EQA, both of them. I mean, it's much more easier to remember it as medullary fibroma. It's fibrotic lesion in the medulla, small white spots in the medulla. Not much clinically significant, but it's very common. And it has been used repeatedly in the EQA, so person who missed this can always go back. I think, I mean, I think we all will agree it's scoreable. I'm not putting that question out for you. Let's just go back and score. And again, an easy scoring case. The outliers were a bit off, so not too taxing on scoring. Okay, so let's go on. Mixed epithelial and stromal tumor 1, cystic nephroma 1, metanephric adenofibroma 0, renal dysplasia 0, metanephric stromal tumor 0, mucinous tubular and spindle cell 0, renomedullary interstitial cell tumor. Again, this was previously used just for us to reflect on what we were doing at that time. AB10, again, we combined both, and these were the other offerings. This was tubular cystic renal cell carcinoma was in a EQA before that, so maybe that provoked people to put that option there.
Sorry,
Okay,
so I missed that. Was both 1 and 2 ones?
1, and
One.
then the rest was 0.
0. Yeah, sorry, thank you.
That's okay. So AK10, we are told it's a 56-year-old male. PSA was 6.6, and radiologically it was a T2. Biopsy was grade group 2, and there was a supplementary question. Specimen received was robotic radical prostatectomy, and the slide which we had was from right seminal vesicle and vas. We were not given any immunohistochemistry. So this was a section which we had. 2 sections from the seminal vesicle, from the vas. Agree, it's very busy, a full slide. Sometimes I think some people just went on the first seminal vesicle, never reached here. So there was a lesional proliferation. So going a bit closer, we can see that the lesional cells are within the seminal vesicle and also in the extra prostatic tissue. So you can see it's quite different from the normal seminal vesicle. We have back-to-back complex glands, prominent nucleoli, maybe IF8, some columnar cell change and stuff, lymphovascular invasion, and the edge of the extra prostatic extension. Okay, the background, which some people just stayed in the background. So there was dilatation, probably secondary to obstruction. And within that, there were some secretions, some spermatozoa, and some epithelial cells detached. 19 of us thought they needed further immunohistochemistry. Rest, not much comments. Written comments, 49. Most of the people were either they found it and they were saying that it is seminal vesicle extension, and they would actually look at the morphology of the prostate tumor and then see match it. If it doesn't match, they will do immuno. And then there was some people who thought they were thinking of cystadenoma, but the supplementary question was misleading them, and they would ask for an opinion. So yeah, it might be a bit challenging for some centers where they don't do radical prostate. But there was enough pointers in this case, I suppose. And there were some people who thought this was cystadenoma, and I think they only stayed back in the first section of the seminal vesicle. Otherwise, we have very good agreement. Prostate adenocarcinoma. Let's just combine all the prostate adenocarcinoma variants rather than fighting over it. Metastatic tumor, there were 2 people who called metastatic tumor. One had put in the comment that it was prostate adenocarcinoma, so maybe we should combine all of them. Adenocarcinoma, not prostatic, I don't know, maybe 0.5. I don't know where, what adenocarcinoma are we thinking of? Is it seminal vesicle? Is it colorectal? I don't know. There was enough, but at least it was not benign malignant stuff. Maybe they wanted immuno. Cystadenoma, I think they probably missed it. They just concentrated on dilated gland and didn't go further. Adenosis and benign prostatic hyperplasia, there was no normal prostate glands except for the malignant glands. Seminal vesicle and ejaculatory duct apparatus, yes, it was a specimen of that, but that was not the pathology. So instead of wasting your time asking whether it is scoring, let's do scoring because I think it's well over. And it's 0.5 just because it was a supplementary question. So it's over 100. So let's move on and see what the verdict is. Acinar 0.5, ductal 0.5, cystadenoma 0, mucinous 0.25,
Was that 0.25?
0.25.
Ductal.
And then let's metastatic tumor 0, 0.25,
Yeah.
0.5, adenosis 0, benign prostatic hyperplasia 0, seminal vesicle 0, 0, not at. Okay, so we had a supplementary question which asked us to stage this tumor if applicable, and most of us thought it was PT3B. So, so it's majority. I think it's scoreable. Let's go back. There might be quick scoring this one. They're moving swiftly.
Yeah. It's just somebody's made a comment. Was ductal 0.25 or 0.5? I would tell that person we'll go back and have a look at the scoring, so I wouldn't worry. If it's less than 50%, we'll obviously be as generous, give the generous.
Yeah, no, you just go back and check before doing again.
Yeah.
So, but we have to follow whatever is there. Like you can do only upstage 0 to 0.25, but won't be able to completely nullify those scores because it's the majority vote counts. Okay, let's go ahead. Probably almost reaching 90. Okay, not applicable 0, PT3A 0, PT3B 0.5, PT4 0. All right. So AK11. So we are told this is a 38-year-old man, previous silicone injection 10 years ago into penis, inflammatory reaction, and now removal of foreign body and skin. So we had an unoriented penile skin, which was firm and pale throughout. Immunohistochemistry was not done. So these were the sections provided. We had 3 pieces of penile skin. The skin looks all right with some bit of hyperplastic change, and most of the pathology happened to be in the subepithelial tissue. So we have the epithelial lining with some lichenoid inflammation, but most prominent is in the subepithelial tissue with many vacuoles, fibrosis, some multinucleate cells. The lymphoid cells within those areas didn't look atypical. So they were larger and smaller intra and extra cytoplasmic vacuoles, macrophages containing multiple vacuoles, pushing the nucleus to one edge, but the macrophages looked quite unremarkable cytologically. There was a lot of hyalinization and fibrosis. Again, a lot of bigger vacuoles, smaller vacuoles, multivacuolated areas. Maybe the silicon has washed out, or because it can't do refractile stuff on digital. I couldn't find any. And again, similar areas throughout. I mean, some people wanted immunohistochemistry, but there were a lot of written comments. I think people describe the lesion. They said it's granulomatous, and then some people wanted immunohistochemistry. Some wanted special stains to rule out microorganism. Some said digital, it is difficult to look for silicon, so they wanted to see the glass slide. And then there were people who said this is penile sclerosing lipogranuloma, and it can be used for injection with paraffin, silicone, any other oils. And others thought this reminded them of breast implants. So
people were happy with that. Some people said that whether the duration is right, was it really 10 years ago. Then we had someone who said this is PMMA filler. Uh, oh, okay. So, and it was interesting. I didn't know what this was. I thought, okay, fine, we'll just go and read it. And there was someone who said they didn't know this is a thing, and that EQA team should do a small presentation on this, take the challenge up and try to read about this and the Bella fill. Okay, let's see how we did. I mean, it was not a very challenging diagnosis, probably because most of us have seen similar in the breast. So it was just, we didn't know this happened, probably. So most of the people, if we combined 1, 2, and the other, we are into 90s, 98 probably. So it's where these all looking fine. The outliers, lymphoma, didn't feel it looks like lymphoma, penile intraepithelial neoplasia, mycobacterium tuberculosis, or squamous hyperplasia. I don't know how I can defend them, but these probably are some outliers in this case. Okay, I think it's very scoreable, so we didn't put that question out, just directly into scoring. Maybe we'll hurry up, start hurrying up. If we want to meet our still keep the school running people in the scoring, and this is probably let's go. Lipogranuloma 1, granulomatous inflammation 1, lymphoma 0, penile intraepithelial neoplasia 0, tuberculosis 0, and squamous hyperplasia 0. Wonderful. So as promised, there was this think about a recent article about complication and outcomes following injection of foreign material into male external genitalia. It's a 2024 article from UK and Australia. So in that, they said the age of presentation is mostly 36 years. And the substances which they found in their study mostly injected was silicone, paraffin, Vaseline, baby oil, autologous fat, marble. Okay, then this, I mean, you know, there are stones, gems, and stuff also inserted, and these are actually found in a lot of prison inmates. There are articles in Australia about this. Site of injection 1 to 4, shaft was the most common site. Time to from injection to presentation was 7.8 years. So the question about was it 10 years? Yeah, it was 0 to 20 years. Cosmetic dissatisfaction was the most common reason for presentation. The others were rarer. I mean, necrosis and all those quick things were more acute presentations. So if we search around it, the BBC had run a news about penile fillers to boost self-esteem, and the author, which the surgeon who was in that article, had also commented on. So if you want to go and read about personal experience and surgical experience there, and there is a lot of cosmetic tourism going on. So for this presentation, I did go on search for that. So lots of clinics in Turkey, most of them are actually private clinics. So and not doctors, sometimes aesthetic practitioners are doing these fillings, and we don't know, probably maybe in 10 years time we will get a lot of filler related problems from different parts of the skin. So for the person who talked about polymethyl methacrylate based soft tissue fillers, there was an article in 2016 about the penile stuff injected. In their study, they thought this was a safe and natural method, of course, and they only thought nodule formation was the complication. The picture they had didn't look very good. It looked very purple, and it was 3 months old. So I thought maybe I'll go and find something in the dermatology journals. And 2025, this is how the polymethyl methacrylate fillers looks like. So they have more sharply circumscribed empty vacuoles of identical size. Maybe we will get a lot of these things coming up because by the time they press it, it takes some time. So maybe the skin people who do dermatology might be more exposed to these fillers coming from more skin areas. Okay, so moving on from fillers, AK12, real pathologies. Male 52. They're told it's a long-standing testicular mass and had a recent increase in size. Serum tumor markers were normal, and we had a solid white tumor replacing the entire testicle. Immunohistochemistry was very helpful. I mean, when we read it, we know it's pancytokeratin positive, chromogranin, CD56, and synaptophysin positive. So at this stage, we know it's a neuroendocrine tumor. We're not really worried, don't even need to look at the slide. And we were told these were the other characteristic testicular tumor markers were negative. On looking at the slide, as said, it was mostly replaced by a lesion, and there was just a bit of testis parenchyma to the edge. So we had insular and islands of tumor cells in a fibrous background. They had nice, ample eosinophilic cytoplasm, round nuclei, salt and pepper chromatin. They were not mitotically active. There was no necrosis. However, there were some weird growth patterns. There were some single cells, some cord-like growth patterns. Don't know much about the significance of these, but there was some article I'll show you later, which said they had infiltrative growth pattern. And then the background testis had some spermatogenesis, we have sperms there, and there was no obvious germ cell neoplasia in situ. So as far as comments for the blogs, obviously you need to see the whole lesion. You need to see there was second pathology or something else. Opinion, immunohistochemistry, not suitable for EQA, 10 people, all very valid. And written comments, we did have a lot of written comments, up to 135 in total. A lot of people were happy that this is a neuroendocrine tumor. So most of the problem was about whether this is metastatic from somewhere, whether it is primary, and that people will call it monodermal teratoma, metastasis, and it will be interesting to see what the consensus will be. Someone said they have been a uropathologist since 35 years and have not seen this lesion. And this is probably not ideal for inclusion for EQA, but a good educational or talking point type case. There were people who said 75% of these neuroendocrine lesions are well differentiated and mostly prepubertal, but you need to look for associated teratoma, more blocks, and clinical radiological correlation to rule out metastasis is required. Some said they favored the testis because of the history, which said it is a long-standing lesion. Some said they were looking for post-pubertal option and they didn't find it, so they were upset about that. And there were some people who said this was embryonal neuroectodermal tumor. There was no neuroectodermal component. It looks more blue. I mean, there was nothing of that sort and didn't look like somatic type transformation either. So then there were people who wanted to do isochrome 12P and wanted to look for GCNIs, which they think would be negative in this. So current WHO testis index page has divided into germ cell tumors related to GCNIs, unrelated to GCNIs, and then sex cord stromal tumors, which we don't have to look at today. So unrelated to germ cell neoplasia in situ, most of the prepubertal and spermatocytic tumor comes there. And this was the most frequent diagnosis, testicular neuroendocrine tumor, prepubertal type, which is also called as monodermal teratoma, and was also previously called carcinoid. So these occur in a wide age range, 10 to 83. So postpubertal and prepubertal does not depend upon the age. Histogenesis is a matter of debate, and these are not associated with isochrome 12P or germ cell neoplasia in situ. There are studies which show there was post-pubertal type teratoma also in these neuroendocrine tumors. So when you click on these, I mean, these are quite useful, the links. You can get more articles. Actually, I clicked on these and found Prof. Bernie's article about so whatever they had said in the WHO was part of the study. Again, the study just had 35 cases. So they did molecular and stuff to see that they don't have 12P amplification or GCNIs. And there's a high incidence of neuroendocrine tumors in the prepubertal type. Again, one of Prof. Bernie's association with US, it's a much more older study. That had 29 cases. So again, pure was found in 19 cases and some were associated with teratoma. So in this article, I think there was a picture about infiltrative and desmoplastic types in the pure carcinoid tumors. That's the only thing I found about the infiltrative growth pattern, but it was confined to the testis. So I did check with some of the testicular experts in my department. I didn't really get a proper answer whether it would be what the significance of that growth is when it is still confined to the testis. So maybe we are all learning on these new neuroendocrine tumors of testis, which is actually very low number. But as a group, we did really well. I mean, we are neuroendocrine tumor, prepubertal, monodermal teratoma, well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor. These three are speaking the same thing. We are well into the 90s. Teratoma post-pubertal type, teratoma prepubertal type. I don't know whether they're trying to mean that this is well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor, post-pubertal and prepubertal type. Metastatic disease, again, there were a section of people, and some of them have put in their comment that they think this is metastatic neuroendocrine tumor. Malignant transformation, not really. Neuroectodermal tumor, again, not really. Spermatocytic tumor, it's been so much frequent flyer in EQA, not really. Sertoli cell tumor and paraganglioma, these appears like an outliers. Because there were a lot of comments saying that this should not be scoreable, giving you the option. Maybe we should hurry up. Yes. AK12 scoring. Okay. All right. So then we'll go to the prostates. I'll be covering John's prostate. I hope I won't do much boo-boo in those things, and we hope that he doesn't watch the video also. Okay, let's move on. 70, 80. Okay, let's see. Neuroendocrine tumor 1, monodermal 1, well-differentiated 1. Okay, 0 post-pubertal metastatic tumor, 0. Secondary, 0. Sertoli 0. Prepubertal 0. Neuroectodermal 0. Spermatocyte 0, 0, 0. All right, so just to cheer you up, if you are looking at a very gloomy day, we have people who are much more interested in pathology. And again, a picture from Havel probably will make our day. So going back to the prostate.
Can I just say something, Sona?
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone who's written some very useful comments on the chat. What I would perhaps remind participants, the chat is not a place to have a pop at the organisers. You know, we're doing our best to choose as many good cases as we can. We can't obviously put 15 simple cases in. We have to have a wide selection of simple, intermediate, and some contentious issues, and some people quite obviously vocal at what they think of us. So thanks very much.
Okay, so we go back to case number 13, prostate biopsies, male 76, PSA 11.63, core biopsies, and we have 3. It looked pink. I was like, oh my God, this will be an easy run. There were some glandular areas, 2-layered glands, again, some atrophic inflammation, so looks very fine. 18 wanted immunohistochemistry, 1 said not suitable for EQA. Some were waiting for AI. They was not happy by 3. And then there were a few people who saw something, and they told us where it was. In the middle core, separated fragment, there was few atypical glands, which they want to do immuno on. And there were a few people who saw a fluke. This didn't look very easy as it started off with. So this was the area which they found was atypical glands. Oh yeah, probably will choose level or immuno, something on this. Is it real? Is it part of the tumor? Is it carryover? No idea. But was very small on its own to call it adenocarcinoma. And the fluke area, try to find it. This was the area which I found, and probably it's some vegetable matter. I can't see any structure within the stuff. AI, we did IBEX, and it was an in-house IBEX. I've been using IBEX since 2024, so so there is this area which people, some hawk-eyed among us spotted, and it thinks it's low likelihood, but did spot that area. So we have benign. A majority of us thought it was benign. There were a small section who thought it was one ASAP, and you saw that why they thought it's ASAP. So as a majority, please don't try to vote them down. I mean, there is some atypia in those glands. So and then adenocarcinoma, I mean, you won't call it adenocarcinoma based on those two glands. So, but then be generous. These people, they are smaller in number, but they did observe really well. They are like the next AI. So I'm asking the question, AI is scoreable. So if the majority of the participants who are thinking of marking down ASAP, just put no. Okay, let's go ahead. We want to score it. So we did listen to what we were saying. We give 1 and 2, 1, because no one's very certain what that small foci is. I'll give you some more time this time because we don't want to penalize people for saying too much or looking at the case very closely. Okay, so let's see, benign 1. Oh, okay. 0.5, 0, fine. So I've not scored this was because most of us didn't, there was this glitch because of which people didn't put what that was. So not applicable is a comment, but you see there are only 336 responses. Supplementary, it's only those people who found those atypical cells. Okay, let's go for next one. AK14, 74 male, PSA 8, biopsy from right apex. And here we are given some immunohistochemistry. And we are given only one core, so that's good. Single core. And we had some back-to-back glands. We can draw around the glands, some crystalloid things. Some people might argue there is some fusion, but otherwise it looks mostly like 3+3 immuno. Again, just confirm what we saw. Oh, some people still wanted to do more immuno. And in the comments, some people said, why did you do immuno? So people are never happy. So then most of the comments were branching and fusion. And then there was an angry section of people about tumor content, which they didn't want to, they want us to stop immediately. Okay, let's go ahead. So this is, people thought it was adenocarcinoma. Some said atypical intraductal proliferation, maybe excusable intraductal carcinoma. It's a bit too much. I mean, it'll provoke more emotions and more things from the surgeon. So maybe it's a bit of an outlier, but let's see whether you want to score it. Or maybe we can just rush through the scoring. Yes. So let's go and score it. As we know that this is a supplementary question, so it's a 0.5. Oh yeah, no, we somehow have to finish by 4 so that you can go home. All right, so adenocarcinoma 0.5, 0.25, let's say. Oh no. Okay, 0. Intraductal 0. So for the grading, as was previously agreed, that you just have to score 3+3 and 3+4 together. I mean, if we can't do it individually, otherwise it will not score. The others probably appears like an outlier. IBEX. So IBEX normally, when they say high likelihood red, it is normally cancer. The heat map says that. And when you go and press observed, they'll show you what the Gleason score is. So IBEX thinks it's 3+3. And I always find perineural invasion very useful in this. So if you have an AI, more than anything, I probably use AI for perineural invasion when I have to, like, when you don't find, obviously, and if you want to just have a quick run. So perineural invasion, low likelihood will be blue, and red. If they have red, then it's probably perineural invasion. But if it is blue, it's probably fibrous tissue. So you can ignore it. So there was no perineural invasion in this case. Supplementary scoreable, probably. Yes. Scoring. Oh, what happened? Is it not working? Is the Slido crashed?
Can you go back? Or
Yeah.
so is it supplementary scoring?
I can't see it. Did this crash somewhere?
People say they can't vote on Slido.
Yeah, I can't find mine also. Oh, new system.
It's crashed for us too, yes. A few people have said.
Oh. Oh, what do we do? So it's probably scoreable. Oh, but then this one, it's, I mean, 3+3 and 3+4, we were going to anyway combine.
I think it's pretty.
I
think these are pretty straightforward cases, aren't they?
Yeah.
Let's.
I don't know what happened. I mean, my Slido is also not working. I don't know how it crashed.
Yeah.
It was working all along.
Should we make a decision? Just combine 3+3 and 3+4.
Yes,
that's probably easier.
probably. I mean, it was a low grade 4 also, so
yeah,
it's not anyway from beyond that.
I mean, I think 4+3 for that question is wrong.
Yes.
I know we're right at the end of the EQA, and hopefully it won't make too much of a difference.
I don't know why it crashed all of a sudden, but yeah.
So
anyway,
we'll make an executive decision here. So the first two, so 3+3 and 3+4 are 0.5.
Yes, and then this is 0.
0 for 4+3.
And 4+4 is quite off. Okay. So the reason this has been introduced, we do have tumor content. We do have molecular studies requested on a lot of our cases currently. With they are all. I mean, probably there's an argument that every case won't go, but some cases go. So it's a bit different opinions, but whatever it is. There are educational thing about how to do the tumor content scoring. And if you don't know, there are current EQAs which are running, which do tumor content scoring. So in my department, there are 2 people who have signed on to that EQA. So the idea is not to make you all sign on to more EQAs for the tumor content, because this is going to increase genomics and tumor content stuff. You are going to receive it every day. So that's why we are trialing it, to not put you under more EQA to join and more to do. So we're trying to incorporate into our own EQAs, so you don't have to do further EQA. So that's the idea. I mean, some people said do crib reform, but I don't think there's a crib reform EQA coming up. We discussed crib reform when there is a prostate cancer. So the idea behind that is to help you not join new EQA and have a standardization of giving a tumor person nuclei. This is growing. It is going to grow further. So, and majority of us thought it was 20 to 30%. We also had separate opinions from 2 molecular pathologists, one from Birmingham and one from Cambridge. They both agreed to 20 to 30%, which is what majority of us thought. So it's just a practice about what we are going to do and prevent us from joining a new EQA. So It's not much rocket science. It won't take much of your time, but it will take more time to join a new EQA. So hopefully it will be helpful in the later run. AK-15, we are told it's a 66-year-old male and a known 3+3, PSA 5.5, biopsy for clarity because they found a spinal lesion and went for cup MDT. So 2 cores. Yes, we found 2 cores, more cellular, bluish looking, so something's there. Again, lot of back-to-back glands. You can draw around the glands, probably some bit of, don't know, maybe fusion some places. Just have to find it. Some people might argue there is no fusion. Probably it's all back-to-back glands, some more branching rather than anything else. Again, this area towards the edge, probably it's not a good idea to score there. Here, people might again argue it's branching versus fusion. So maybe a bit controversial. There's a smaller gland. Some people might say this is 4, and the other ones are well-formed glands. Oh, mucin's area, which people always worry about. And yes, there was intracellular mucin pushing the glands. So but there was probably some complexities. Maybe that's why people they're thinking of 4. Again, this is probably extracellular, intracellular mucin, probably 3. Again, it's a bit more difficult in these cases. 5 people wanted immuno. Again, the comment was about 3+3 and 3+4, very similar to the previous case, whether it is or not. And mucinous areas, maybe it's minor pattern 4. And then the other majority of the comments were tumor content and put cribriform. So you know why we are doing it. Hopefully it won't harm you in the long run and will help. So maybe we can, I mean, both of them adenocarcinoma. I don't know whether if the slider is crushed, it will work again. So we'll just combine both of it towards the end, almost reaching there. So let's score both 1. And supplementary question, again, we had grade group 1, 2, and 3. Majority of us thought it was 3+4. A few thought 3+3, and a few thought 4+3. Let's also see what the AI thinks. So IBEX thinks it is cancer, high likelihood, all red areas. So if you press the observed button and go ahead and see, oh, IBEX says it's 3+3. They have more dark blue areas with some bit of greenish areas. Perineural invasion, just blue areas, so probably nothing, fibrous tissue. Supplementary scoreable, probably it's quite high likely scoring. How do we want to score this? I mean, again, it was most 3+3 and 3+4, low pattern, combine both.
I agree with that. We've always gone down 1 and above 1 on the majority, haven't we?
I mean, the submitting was a 3+4, so that's why.
Are you happy to accept 4+3 as well? Because that's what we've always done. I know I wouldn't have called it 4+3, I've got to say.
Yeah, no, it's a bit more.
Do you want to try Slido again? Has it come back on?
Oh, yes.
Oh, has it?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, go for it. That's good.
Just in time.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it just got bored.
What did IBEX call it, did you say?
3+3.
3+3, okay. It's interesting.
Oh, yeah, so the right time it appeared, so that's really cool. Don't know, it never crashed before, but... Okay, let's wrap it up. Let's let people go off at 4 o'clock. 0.5, 0.5, and 4+3, 0.
Yeah,
so
0. Okay, fair enough.
Oh, thank you. So it's big relief and tumor person nuclei. Again, it was some bit over the place, and most of us thought it was 60 to 70%. Again, separately contacting pathologists from molecular pathologists from Birmingham and Cambridge, they also thought the same percentage as what our majority participants thought. So probably we are all learning, scoring really better. So maybe we can all pat our back on that. And fine, that's to the end of it, and we survived. If you want to carry on.
I suppose we just got to thank all these people. Thanks especially to your colleague John, and also to Philippe Tanier as well for the help with the tumor nuclei percentage, and obviously to Lauren and Mick and all the hosting sites as well. What I would say is, before people log off, just a quick plea really, if we do go to fully educational next time, please don't just spend 5 seconds just writing anything down. Please just, we'll treat it as an EQA. Otherwise, we'll end up, when we come to show the answers, we'll end up with like 50 diagnoses. So that's just a plea really, but thank you very much for everyone who's put the Q&A together, and to Uropa as well. And thanks to you, Sona. Great job.
Yeah, and probably we will get back to you about NQAC, whatever the final verdict is.
Absolutely. Once we hear, I know I had an email with Paul yesterday. He'll contact us, and as soon as we know, we'll put it on the website. We'll send out an email, and everyone knows then what's happening for the next spring circulation. So that's where we are at the moment. Yeah. We'll make, obviously, the recording will be on YouTube, and then we'll send out a post-meeting report as soon as we can. But it's going to take a while now just to categorize all the scores and so forth. So